Maybe each of us has one person in life who remains in our memory like a warm ray of light. Not because they were our partner, not because there was some great love, but simply because they existed, and that was enough. For me, that person was her. We met back in childhood. We went to school together, lived in the same town, walked the same streets. I can't say we were inseparable, more like acquaintances who always treated each other kindly. We weren't in love. We didn't date. What we had was something else, something light, sincere, without expectations. I remember how she laughed at those school celebrations. She had such an open, pure laugh that you couldn't help but smile along. She was always a bit apart, yet somehow in the very center of it all. I don't know how to explain it. She had a way of being present, even in silence. We grew up, graduated school, went to different universities. Life moved on. She followed her own path, and I followed mine. I got married. My wife and I had children. We lived an ordinary life in our hometown, where everything felt painfully familiar. Sometimes I'd see her at the store, in a cafe, or just on the street. Always polite, reserved, with the same smile. We'd exchange a few words. How are you? How are the kids? And part ways like acquaintances from the past. I didn't think of her as someone important then. Everything felt too ordinary. But then, life began to change. My wife and I started losing our connection. Not all at once. It wasn't like thunder on a clear day. It was more like a slow fading. First, the conversations grew shorter. Then the hugs disappeared. Then the glances. Each of us lived our own life, under the same roof. Around that time, I decided to go abroad. It wasn't an escape. I truly wanted to earn money, to buy a house, to give my family more. I planned to go just for a year or two. But life had other plans. The job dragged on. My family stayed in Ukraine, and I stayed there. And it wasn't so easy to come back. Eventually, the marriage completely fell apart. We divorced. There were no fights or scandals, just an emptiness that couldn't be filled anymore. I got used to my new life. Monotonous, work-focused. Friends, in messages. Family, at a distance. Children, through texts and short calls. It was lonely, but I had already learned not to complain. And then, one evening, I was sitting in the kitchen with a cup of tea. It was late, and the world outside the window felt completely foreign. I was scrolling through my contact list just to keep my hands busy, and I came across her name. I don't know why then, why exactly at that moment, I decided to write. Maybe I just wanted to feel something familiar, even for a moment. Hi, how are you? That was it. No hidden intentions, no plan. She replied a few hours later, just as simply, "Hi, I'm doing well. And you?" And the conversation began. From that evening on, we started talking. At first, rarely. Then, every day. Our messages were warm, unexpectedly genuine. They pulled things out of me I hadn't said in years. We talked about work, about daily life, about memories, sometimes even about things we had never told anyone else before. I learned she had divorced too, long ago, peacefully, without drama. It just happened. And again, that word, just. She had always been that way. Not loud, not pushy, but someone who touched you deeply. We started having video calls. Her voice was exactly how I remembered it, and her eyes, deeper, wiser. There was silence in them, the kind you want to listen to. We could sit in silence on those calls, and it never felt awkward. We could laugh, remembering our childhood. We could simply exist. One day I asked, "Do you remember our childhood? Those walks, those evenings in the yard?" She smiled and said, "I remember. I always felt like you were someone I could trust, even when we hardly spoke." That touched me deeply, more than I expected. Time passed. We grew closer. I started noticing that I was thinking about her all day, that I was hearing her in voices, in phrases, in sounds, that she was the one I wanted to share everything with. And then I dared to say it. I think back in school, I didn't understand what was pulling me towards you. But now I know you're my place. She looked at me for a long time, silent. And then she whispered, "I feel it too. I do." This wasn't a story of passion, not a drama. This was something deeper, a warmth that had waited for years. Two souls that never lost each other, even though they had walked through life apart. We're still not together physically. She's home, I'm abroad, but we are together. In every word, in every glance, in every good night that echoes through the screen. Sometimes love doesn't come when you look for it. It comes when you're ready to receive it. And it begins with something simple. Hi, how are you?